Hello everyone. For a couple of days, I've had the pleasure of testing Samyang's first autofocus lens for Canon EF mount cameras, Samyang AF 14mm f2.8 EF. I received this copy of the lens through a giveaway from Samyang and also for the purpose of this review. It's an extreme wide-angle lens for Canon's full-frame or APS-C digital SLRs. It can also be mounted on a mirrorless camera if you have the correct adapter for it. It's priced around $800, so it's not a cheap lens, though it seriously undercuts the 14mm ultra-wide autofocus lens competition. I'll be trying out this lens with my Canon 650D and my full-frame Canon 6D, so you can get an idea of how wide this lens shoots with both full-frame and APS-C DSLRs. But in reality, a lens like this will be more suitable on a full-frame camera. With a 116.6 degrees angle of view, pushing away the subject and pulling in an extremely wide background, it's very useful for getting dramatic perspectives and pictures in both large and small buildings as well as landscapes. And the maximum aperture of f2.8 is very helpful, letting in decent amount of light for shooting in darker situations. The lens's aperture mechanism has 7 rounded blades for when you stop the aperture down. This helps bokeh to be very smooth. Let's look at the build quality. The lens is a little chunky and weighs a bit more than half a kilogram at 536 grams. It has a metal construction and feels quite solid in the hand. The camera mount is made out of metal with electronic contacts and has a weather sealing gasket around it. A handy feature especially for landscape photographers. The lens comes with a hood, a bag, and a 1-year warranty. The hood is permanently mounted on the lens. At the side, we see a simple autofocus manual focus switch and the large front element. Unfortunately, there is no filter threads on this lens. In manual focus mode, if you're shooting from the viewfinder, you'll have to half press your camera's shutter button, and that will give the focus motor 5-6 seconds of power in order for you to manually focus. The autofocus works quickly and accurately, making a slight sound. It sometimes can be unsure of itself, but generally works fine. So, let's see how this lens performs. At f2.8 with Canon 6D, there's a tiny bit of vignetting, but it is really nothing to worry, since this is a wide-angle lens. At f4, the image is nearly excellent. The image quality stays same up until f11, where diffraction begins to kick in and the image softens. Canon 650D with the APS-C sensor shows similar results. At f2.8, there's almost no visible vignetting. At f4.0, the image is nearly excellent and very sharp. The image quality stays same up until f11, where diffraction begins to kick in and the image softens. With the minimal focusing distance of 20 cm, you can get very dramatic looking close-up shots. The close-up image quality is very good all across the board. If you can get close enough to your subjects, then at f2.8 you can blur out your background quite a bit. The autofocus areas look quite smooth. The image quality is generally very sharp and there is almost no chromatic aberration. Very impressive for a lens this wide. On an APS-C camera, the lens's focal length is equivalent to 22mm, giving it a fairly wide-angle view. Here are some shots for comparison. There is less distortion, so it is an improvement over the older Samyang 14mm lenses, but there still is a slight barrel distortion. Note that the lens will lose contrast and flare a bit when working against bright lights. Overall, there is very little not to like with the Samyang AF 14mm f2.8 EF. The build quality and autofocus system are good, and the lens's optics are nice and sharp with almost no color fringing. It has a nice bokeh and a good minimum focus distance. The only downsides are the lack of filter threads, and the work against bright light is a little poor. Vignetting and distortion are average, but that's expected in a lens this class. It's really a good sharp lens with a price that undercuts the competition.